Let's do a quick review of the subjunctive. This is just going to be some general ideas. Remember, the subjunctive is the new grammar component that you're learning, but you cannot forget the indicative. The subjunctive is that part that I explained that when you're looking at a sentence is going to indicate some sort of doubt. And the indicative is everything that you've learned so far that you know, your conjugations, your o as a amos an, o as a amos en, that are certain. So remember, subjunctive, doubt, indicative, certainty. There is some expressions in the subjunctive or expressions that are going to be more clear when they are indicating subjunctive because they are uncertain. They're indicating doubt. Now, these expressions are just a few. There is a formula that you need to remember for the subjunctive, and that formula is your expression or your first clause followed by the que, followed by your next subject and the verb. So your expression or your first clause could have a subject. Que is going to break the sentence to a second clause, and then you have to pay attention to the next subject and the verb. It is here where some of you are having trouble because you recognize the expression, but then you forget that the second part of the clause, you need to have that verb conjugated in the subjunctive form or the imperative, which is your commands. So this part, this conjugation piece here, you already know, and you know that as a command. When we put these together in a sentence with this expression and the que, is indicating uncertainty, and we or somebody out there decided to call that the subjunctive mode, not the subjunctive tense in Spanish. Little complicated because it is what it is with the language. And if anything, remember, when in doubt, subjunctive; if you are sure, indicative. Now remember, the formula could be a little complicated if you have this expression of certainty. And I explained that this is a shorter list compared to the subjunctive. So these are expressions that can be followed by the que as well, but they're going to indicate certainty, and that means they will be in the indicative. No doubt, I believe, I'm certain, it is true, it is obvious. All of them, because they're a sure thing, you had to conjugate or work the sentence the way that you have done so far in the present tense. Remember, we're still learning the subjunctive in the present tense. There is a past tense, there is other aspect of the subjunctive that could be done in a different tense. And I know it gets complicated because this first part of the expression we call that the mood part, and then the second part or the second clause is when you're looking at the conjugations. If it helps you again, here's the endings for the subjuntivo in the present tense. Es, hemos, en, a, as, a, amos, an. Remember your AR endings. Here's the endings for the subjunctive in the present tense. Here's ER, IR, and the endings. This is for present tense subjunctive, AR, ER, IR. Now, you have to remember that we have a lot of irregular verbs that you've been learning since level 1, and you still have to remember that they're irregulars for the subjunctive. Let's look at some of those irregular. Your verbos de bota, like contar, poder, jugar, they do not change in the nosotros form. Here's the changes. U to UE, E to I, E to IE. This is just a short list, and you probably have within your notes charts with these irregular verbs. Los verbos de bota y sandalia, the sandals, dormir, pedir, divertir. Remember, we have several of them that are popular, hint, hint, and that we use a lot. Example, O to UE, E to IE. So these verbos de bota or de sandalia. You also have your go verbs, tenga, venga, ponga, salga. Don't forget your cargos are your highly irregulars like estar, ir, ser, dar, haber. Now, don't forget that in the subjunctive, you have your first clause, your second clause, que. Now, que is not the only thing that indicates subjunctive because the que can be used for the indicative. Do not forget that. Now, let's remember the uses of the subjunctive for wishes, emotions, impersonal observations or expressions, for recommendations, of course, doubt or denial, and ojalá. Let's look at the W, a wish. You have your first clause, followed by que, and then your second clause, that's where you're going to be conjugating the subjunctive. Your first clause, yo quiero, or I wish, I'm the subject. I wish who? That my students. Okay, so I'm conjugating using the plural estudiantes, ellos. In my head, I'm thinking ellos. And then that they do the tarea, they do the homework, hagan la tarea. So here's my first wish, or my W from my acronym weirdo, that is telling me, let me look carefully. Here's the que, it is a wish. This is something I want, I desire. Who's the subject? The students. Now let me conjugate the verb. Here's some examples of several wishes, followed by que, and several examples of how to conjugate in the ER, IR, and some irregulars. The E stands for emotions. Again, first clause, que, second clause. What kind of emotions? I'm happy, I'm mad, it bothers me, it worries me. Let's use add molesta. Me, that's me, I'm talking about myself. Molesta, it bothers me. Que, my first clause, que tú manejes tan mal. Tú is the subject on my second part. I had to conjugate according to that subject. Now there's several emotions that you have to remember. Alegrarse, entristecerse, emocionarse, preocuparse. The I stands for impersonal expressions. Es bueno que, es malo que, es importante, es justo, es injusto, es fantástico, es terrible. Que tú estudies. It is important, but it is important that you study. This is your impersonal expression followed by the que. Here's your subject, and here's your verb conjugated in the subjuntivo. These are popular impersonal expressions. The R stands for the recommendations. I recommend, I suggest, I advise. We've been using advice and some of those expressions to give an opinion or to give a wish. Aconsejo, sugiero, recomiendo. Tú recomiendas, tú sugieres, él aconseja. Que estudies. Ella recomienda, ella sugiere, él sugiere, nosotros aconsejamos. Remember, this one will change depending on the subject, on the first clause, and then, of course, this would change here depending on the subject on the second clause. Doubt or denial, we've used these ones a lot. First clause, again, que. Second clause, I doubt. Yo dudo que usted esté enfermo. Esté, it is irregular. What are some of those other doubt and denial expressions? I don't believe, no creo. I'm not sure, no estoy seguro. Remember, doubt, always subjunctive. Here's some of those expressions used in sentences. No es cierto, es dudoso. Que tú estudies. No creo que tú estudies. Again, first clause here. Here's your subjects, followed by the que. And here's tú or the other subjects because it could be any of them. And the last, ojalá, like the song, ojalá que llueva café en el campo. Ojalá que tú y yo estemos. Ojalá is by itself. It's a hope. So it is just used always in the subjunctive. A lot of times you have ojalá without the que. And again, ojalá is one of those that if you want to think of ojalá as just being the one and only subjunctive expression that you may want to use often because it's so easy, then keep it in your list of subjunctive expressions that you will use for writing and speaking. Hopefully this helps you a little bit. Let's go back to some of these slides here. If anything, remember, you have your first part of the sentence, que, and your second part. Think of it as a little box where you need to look at the first clause. What are the things that are happening in that first clause? What is the subject? What is the expression? Is it my W? Is my E? Is my I? Is my R? So all the weirdo parts could go on that first box, and then on your second box you will be looking carefully at your subjects just like here, and then whatever the verb that you need to conjugate. So on the first box, if anything, just look at what uses you have there of the subjunctive so that then you determine whether this second part is going to be subjunctive or not. Think of it as a McDonald combo number 2. You need your subject on the first part, you need your que, you need your subject on the second part. Okay, my combo is complete, then it is subjunctive. So that would be kind of an analogy there that these combo here of elements are going to determine whether you have a sentence in the subjunctive mode. Take notes of these ideas. See if you can explain those to me in class, and we will discuss if you are ready or not for your retake.